Now we take a look at the walking meditation. The main objective of walking meditation is to notice on the walking itself. In one-step noting, the first part is lifting the foot from the floor. The next is pushing forward the foot, followed by moving. After that, there's a dropping down movement, a touching the floor, and finally pressing down on the floor. Do you remember how many parts are involved in total? I will repeat again. Lifting up, pushing forward, passing forward, dropping down, touching the floor, and pressing down. 6 in total. In the scripture, there are named as 6 parts of noting. Mind and matter are involved in all 6 parts. Yogis have to note to be aware of these nama and rupa at these 6 parts. As for the initial stage, it is not possible to note them all. Thus, at the beginning stage, we will make one-step noting at a time, as left step and right step. That is single noting as you make each step. Then we will move on to two-step noting. That is, in a single step, we note the lifting and placing, following in a triangle shape. Again, the two-step is for lifting and placing. After that, lifting, stepping, placing. Since there are 3 steps involved, we call it 3-step noting. The main objective is to know the 6 various parts while we are doing the steps. By means of these 3 methods, left step, right step, or lifting, dropping, or lifting, moving, and dropping or placing. When you start to note, keep your body straight when you stand. It is important not to bend down your head like this. If you bend your head and walk, you will get dizzy sooner and cannot be able to note anything. So make sure to keep your head straight. While keeping your eyes straight, look about 5 to 6 feet in front of you. This will keep your eyes looking downward. You may put your hands like this in front of you, or you may keep them behind you, or you may hold your arms if you want. You may put your hands in any of these positions. What's important here is not to swing your hands. After positioning your hands, look 5 or 6 feet in front of you with your eyes casting downwards. The position is more or less prepared now. Then aim your mind at the point where your foot touches the floor. For example, here if you were standing and stepping on the floor. You may have sensations of heat or hardness. Sometimes you may feel a shaking with a pulse. You have to try to see all of these details. When you start to lift up the foot, you will feel a difference. You may feel lightness as compared to the heaviness you felt earlier. You may feel coldness in a case of feeling heat earlier, or you may feel a release of the tension that you felt earlier. You must be aware of all of these sensations in walking meditation. See what is happening in your foot when you move through the lifting, stepping, moving forward, dropping, and pressing down. Is it getting hot, cold, warm, or what other kind of sensations do you have? Your noting mind must adhere with the object, which is the foot. Let's say you will note single noting now. Aim your mind on the foot and start lifting. Right step. Once you start saying in your mind, the timing of the stepping must be exact. The stepping process and the labeling in the mind must also be synchronized. Once you finish the step, you will halt for a moment. Avoid lifting or placing one foot while lifting the other. What I have noticed is that some yogis are walking like this. Right step, left step. What I mean is, after the right step is done and touching the floor, the other foot has already been lifted. So 2 moments of pressing down and lifting are happening at the same time. Since you cannot focus on one well, you are not clear to know anything. That's the reason we make a halt after making each step. Your mind should adhere from the start of the lifting until the pressing down on the ground. See what's happening there, as I mentioned earlier. Is it feeling hot, warm, cold? Do you feel hardness? Do you feel softness? All of these sensations are to be counted. When labeling in your mind, do slowly. Right step. Left step. Right step. Make sure the other foot is not lifting until both feet are touching the floor. Here it is again. Right step. Left step. Right step. Left step. Your mind has to focus on the whole process until one foot is pressing down. In order to know the whole foot, you have to focus your attention on the arch of the foot. Labeling is right step, but your mind has to stick to the arch of the foot in the whole process. In the beginning, you may not know the whole process. Sometimes you may know while pressing down, sometimes while you are lifting up. This is quite normal for every yogi. However, you have to keep your effort up, always. With continuous effort in catching the whole process. Later, you will really see what is happening. Your mind will be able to adhere to the object. It is important not to reduce your effort in doing this. After these steps, you will reach the end of the walking path. You will stop for a while there. Here is right step, left step, right step, left step, right step, and so on. Now you reach the end. You will come to a standing position like this. Then close your eyes and note standing, standing. Noting on standing is actually seeing yourself with the mind's eye from head to toe. At first, you will take the whole body as it is and note standing, standing. As a beginner, noting the whole body standing is actually not easy. In that case, you can divide the body into 2. One is from the head to the waist, and the other is from the waist down to the toes. Then note on each part alternatively. Do labeling as standing upper part and standing lower part. Do labeling in your mind as if you are looking at it with your eyes. Do not try to visualize with imagination. What we want here is to see the whole body directly with your mind's eye. What you will see is in the beginning your head, chest, or abdomen, depending on where you look. You will see whatever exists. Later on, these names or concepts will disappear, and you will see the real phenomena. Most beginner yogis tend to drop standing meditation as they do not see anything and think there is no significant benefit to practicing it. Instead of seeing standing phenomena, they are thinking about this and that when they are standing. Note carefully and precisely to avoid this. Standing, standing. Since you have divided your body into 2 sections, you will take about 5 notes for each part, like this: standing, 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 and so on. After 5 times focusing on each section, you can open your eyes or keep them closed if you like. Turn your body slowly. Do not worry about overturning. If so, you just turn back. When you are turning, note it as turning, turning, moving 1 foot at a time. After moving 1 foot, put your attention on the other, noting as precisely as possible. So keep switching feet and noting precisely. Focus your mind on moving the foot at each and every turn. The labeling is simply turning, turning, and the noting mind should adhere to the foot which is actually moving. If you turn this way, for example, focus on the right foot. If you move the other foot, focus on that foot. After a turn, you should face straight down the path. You will note standing meditation about 3 times before you start to walk. When you reach the other end, follow the same procedure. Note about 5 times for standing, standing, before turning, and for 3 times after turning, you can note standing, standing again. Follow this for each and every step. Therefore, you will do the standing meditation here at one end and another time at the other end. Now, you can note left step, right step as a single noting per step, and do this for the first 20 minutes of the walking meditation session. After that, you will do the 2-step noting, and here is how to note for 2-step noting. We note lifting as you lift your foot from the floor and labeling it as lifting, but it is also important to focus on what is happening in your foot when you lift it up. And after you do note lifting, then dropping or placing as you see fit. Your foot will follow a triangle shape in its movement. Do not move forward too much. Remember, you are not in a race. The next segment of your practice will involve the 3-step noting process. But here, in 2-step noting, we have lifting and dropping, or lifting and placing. Noting the movement is not involved. Once we finish noting of these 2 steps, if you are standing on both feet, avoid raising your foot so it's so high in the lifting. It should be natural, and the maximum distance from the floor is about 3 inches. Look at this carefully. lifting, dropping, following a triangle shape or movement. Aim your mind at the foot until you're pressing down on one side, and then again note the lifting, dropping, lifting, dropping, lifting, dropping. You must do this slowly. In meditation, we have to practice walking meditation in a slow manner. The main principle is that you must do it slowly and aim your mind on the slow-moving meditation object. Aiming needs accuracy. You will need two factors of aim and mental energy. When you lift your foot up, your mind must be fully focused on the lifting in a very straightforward manner. Thus, it is important that you apply aim and piercing energy. Slowly aim and piercing with awareness. With these factors involved, there is no reason that you cannot come to know the Dhamma here and now. Moving slowly will give you the chance to see clearly. If you move quickly, you won't be able to see no matter how hard you try. Even if you are moving slowly, yet you do not look properly, you also won't see anything. Let's say a person passes you by very quickly. The only thing you will know is that someone passed, but you won't know much else because they are moving quickly. If, on the other hand, they move quickly or they move slowly, and you were gazing and not paying attention, you will also not come to know anything. Only if that person is moving slowly and you are paying careful attention, then you will know as much as you care for. Details such as features of the face, the clothing, and so on will easily be known. The same analogy can be applied here, and there is nothing to rush for. Group activities, such as going to the dining hall, is an exception, since you cannot be too slow in walking. When you go back to your room, however, that is your own time. You can take that as slow as you want. It doesn't matter if you reach the Dhamma hall a little late if you walk slowly, but you must be practicing respectfully, not superficially. During your stay in the Dhamma hall and the time you come back from the hall, these are also your own time. There is no reason to be rushing at these times. You can do the two-step slow walking meditation like this: lifting, placing, lifting, placing, lifting, placing, like this. When reaching to the end, you can note standing, standing 5 times with your eyes closed. While walking, do not close your eyes, because it may arouse fear of hitting something or doubt of losing track, etc. With this fear and doubt, your concentration will be weakened. That's why you have to do walking meditation with your eyes open. Also, do not bend your head down. You will close your eyes once you're at the end of the path and do the standing meditation noting for about 5 times, followed by turning and again noting the standing meditation for about 3 notes. Whenever you reach the end of the walking pad, you will do this. Do not think that the standing meditation is not necessary. Some yogis think that standing is interrupting their walking meditation, but this is not the case. We have activities like walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. Whatever posture you are in, try not to miss any noting. Yogis usually miss noting when standing up after a sitting session. Their concentration is interrupted when they stand up, They sit again to build it up, and after that it is dropped once again when standing up. In cases like these, they never develop sufficient concentration. The Vipassana practice is not like this. You have to have momentary concentration, moment after moment in a continuous manner. When you bend your finger, aim your mind on the bending. It is just a moment that the noting mind is on the bending itself. This moment is called momentary concentration. It seems a little or no strength in each momentary concentration. However, collecting many of these moments, moment after moment, there is a lot of power. The noting in one movement and another, and so on. If the noting is continuous, stronger concentration is built up to see the true nature of that process. This Vipassana method is using momentary concentration. It is essential that one moment of noting be connected to the next moment as much as possible. You should not choose the postures as in, I would prefer noting and sitting. Try to note well in all the postures in such a way that whatever you are doing, mindfulness and noting is always there. This is very important to understand. That's why standing meditation and noting of standing should be done in the turning process. In this way, you will go left step, right step for 20 minutes, lifting, placing for another 20 minutes, then lifting, moving, placing for another 20 minutes. In the 2 and 3 step noting, you have to do a little halt in between each movement before you make the next step. This halt is to give yourself time to see what is happening when the foot is lifting and also dropping. You will not be stepping continuously like this. Be careful. In 3-step noting here, lifting, holding up the foot there, moving forward, forward is actually stepping, a halt, and then placing or dropping. Do you understand? Do not care about reaching some destination. Stick to your own place. Lifting, stepping, placing, lifting, stepping, placing. Add a small hesitation between each movement. Hold it there. Do not drag it immediately. Lifting, hold it there, stepping, placing, lifting, stepping, placing. A halt may come after lifting. At first, there may be slight swaying as you are balancing your body. This can be overcome with more practice. Have you seen a toddler learning to walk? It's just like that. Later on, one knows how to balance. So don't worry about swaying or any balancing problem you may experience at first. You will definitely get over it. As mentioned before, the 3-step noting should involve standing meditation at each end of the path. Okay, to summarize. When in walking meditation in the Dhamma hall, you will start by noting left step, right step for the first 20 minutes, then lifting and placing or lifting and dropping for the second 20 minutes. And this will be followed by the lifting, moving, and placing for the final 20 minutes. Together, these add up to 1 hour. You may also do each for 15 minutes or so. What's important here is moving slowly with everything you do. When you go to the washroom, for example, don't rush, but instead go slowly with mindfulness. Movements like opening and closing of the door and all activities should be done with mindfulness. Note the opening of the door as opening, opening. It is essential that the noting mind is on your hand that is opening or closing the door. Then you will walk back to your sitting place, moving mindfully and noting left step, right step, left step, right step, and so on. When you reach the place next to your mat, note standing, standing. Do this for a couple of minutes. When you do this, there may be some tension and stiffness in the legs. After this, you will have to prepare your hands. Aim at your hand in the changing position. If your hand is moving, note moving, moving, moving. You can also note as preparing to sit. If your hands are at your back, note moving, 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 moving. Follow the movement of the hand and note. Keep your hands to each side. After that, note as sitting, sitting. We use the labeling term sitting, but your mind will be focusing on the knees where the most obvious weight bearing is occurring. If you want to be sure, try to see this for yourself now. Will you stand first and sit? Stand up very slowly first. Now you will get up slowly. Pay attention to your body and find the most obvious point where the straining is occurring. Where is it? At the knee, isn't it? Some yogis have remarked that they could not make any insight progress. But it's not surprising, because they don't note anything when they're changing their posture. If you pay attention, look in detail, you will know everything in one sitting. Thus, sit down very slowly, slow as you go, stage by stage. You can simply label as sitting in your mind. Focus on your knees. Place your hands aside here. Here it is. Sitting, 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 sitting. If you want your hand to support, move your hand here, withdrawing, withdrawing, to make support, supporting, supporting. Every movement must be noted slowly with strong mindfulness. A similar method should be applied when getting up, getting up, getting up, or standing, 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 and so on. Do it in a step-by-step approach. Every sitting and standing we should do in this manner. Focus your mind on the knees, and let me explain why. After practicing walking meditation for an hour, there will be heat in your leg joints and in muscles resulting from the blood flow. If you sit right away, these heat has no chance to come out. As the heat flows upwards in your body, you will feel heat and warmth in your face with a feeling of drowsiness, thus losing energy. That's why we do standing meditation for a few minutes, as all the heat will be collected. When you sit in the step-by-step approach, later with practice, you will see the heat radiating from your knees. You will not see this in the beginning. However, you may feel light and clear by doing this before sitting. Well, this is the physical aspect. Now let's talk about the Dhamma. You have concentration in walking and standing meditation, followed by sitting down step by step with noting, and your concentration will be continuous. Most yogis do this in a swift manner of noting sitting. When I ask, how did you note and what did you notice, they cannot answer because they weren't paying close enough attention. They weren't paying close enough attention because they were moving too quickly. You need to bring your concentration from the walking meditation to the sitting so that you don't have to build up your concentration again. Likewise, you can bring the concentration from the sitting meditation to the walking meditation. Concentration becomes much stronger when there are no disturbances in between. For example, if you pour with a cup of water, it may get the area wet with as much water as the cup can hold. But after a while, it dries up if you do not pour more water. Likewise, when you note on the walking meditation and then sit without any noting, the concentration will be dropped. Later, when you do sitting meditation, you will have to build up the good concentration again. However, if you stand up without noting, the concentration will be lost again. Thus, it is essential to maintain the momentum of your concentration. Yogis have to follow strictly and respectfully what we have covered here: walking, standing, turning, with proper amounts of 2 or 3 steps of noting in the walking. By keeping standing meditation before each session of sitting, step-by-step noting on the knees and sitting down, your concentration will be and remain connected. The yogi will come to understand that noting on sitting and walking is not different. He or she will hardly miss a note in all postures, and they will have more or less continuous noting. At this stage, the yogi's insight will progress. The duration of the retreat is not counted here. Some yogis practice for a year with no progress. Why? Their noting is on and off, while others are able to note continuously and make progress very quickly. That's why it's very important to connect your concentration between walking and sitting. In other words, the yogi needs continuous mindfulness in noting. Do not be concerned about the length of your retreat. What's more important is to have continuous mindfulness, which will allow you to make quick progress.
If you do it casually, you will miss some noting in standing and walking. For example, when you're queuing for the food, if you become impatient because other yogis are moving very slowly, then you must use standing meditation and note standing, being aware of the various sensations throughout the body. If your mind becomes impatient, note the impatient, and then return to the sensations of standing and the sensations in the body. So try your best.
Another factor is for yogis to act or to move like they are a sick person. When you are sitting down, use your hand as a support. Keep your hand beside you to give you balance as you sit down. Do not feel embarrassed to do so. Embarrassment occurs because we are watching others. Vipassana is about watching yourself and not others. As long as you are watching yourself carefully, there is no one around but yourself. What's more important is to find out the Dhamma in you. Do not be concerned about your surroundings. In interview questions, every aspect of your day may not be covered due to time constraints. Instead, you may focus on reporting just the rising and falling. As such, some yogis find themselves quite limited. But meditation is for you to come to know yourself and later to report your teacher. So whether the teacher is asking or not, you have to make sure you cover all details in your own practice. Some yogis are only paying attention to the rising and falling for the sake of reporting. Once they have something to say, they are happy and relaxed for that day and don't continue the practice with the same intensity that helped them to develop the insight in the first place. So, if you have success and see something in your practice, then keep up the method that has led to that success. Reporting to the teacher is the main purpose for those yogis that get too excited when they experience something. But actually, it is for you to know and report to the teacher what you have come to know. Some diligent yogis cannot even remember everything they have experienced since they have seen so many things clearly in their practice. Not to worry if it happens like this. What's important is that you know. Just report what you know and can recall. So remember, it is for you to know, and it is not for the purpose of reporting. You will reach your goal one day if you practice in this way. And apart from this, the yogi must behave like a sick person by moving slowly throughout the day. If a sick person wants to stand, he should not get up immediately, but a sick person moves slowly and supports himself like this. Yogis should behave like that. Besides, even if you are strong, you should behave like a weak person. A healthy person, for example, can move or bend his hands quickly. But a weak person may not be able to do that. Then, the yogi has to practice like a blind person, though his eyes are still good. One more important thing is that the yogi must act like a dumb person, though he is fluent in speaking. If you speak too much, you will lose the continuity in your practice. There is a Burmese proverb, 1 for Dhamma, 2 for chatting, 3 for nothing. Once you talk to each other, the topics in the conversation will be carried over to you until you and throughout the next sitting meditation. They will be attached to your thinking for a period of time. Be careful not to let this happen. Another factor is that in intensive practice, yogis should not be lenient to the mind, nor should they be too concerned for themselves or even their life. That's why I mentioned the 4 guardian meditations earlier. When you experience the intense pain in sitting meditation, you may want to give up noting and change the posture. But you must have the guts to cope with these kind of difficulties and suffering. Yogis will have to cope with difficulties like sluggishness and sleepiness at first, followed by unpleasant sensations or pain. These must be overcome by means of noting. Once he's accomplished this, yogis will reach to a level of practice and they do not want to stop practicing. There are 2 factors concerning effort or virya here. The first is nikama dhatu, not having concern for one's life in the practice of the Dhamma. This type of effort will help to overcome sluggishness and pain sensations. The second, parakama dhatu, is a strong determination to reach a goal without giving up. That is, no matter how many difficulties I encounter, I will continue until I reach my goal. A yogi should have these 2 qualities of bravery. Another factor is a balance between sitting and walking meditation. The schedule here is 1 hour of sitting and 1 hour of walking alternatively. There is a reason behind it. Sitting meditation helps build up concentration. Walking meditation helps develop your energy. Both of them make a good balance between concentration and effort in order to develop insight. Sitting alone cannot develop insight because we may become too sleepy, which is called too much concentration. Do not confuse this with true concentration, but you're dealing with a fake type of concentration which only promotes sleepiness. True concentration can never be overmeasured. With too much concentration and a lack of energy, the yogi will feel drowsy, dull, and bored. When effort is too strong, in other words, if you do too much walking meditation, your mind may be drifting here and there, even though you are trying to note on the walking. Since concentration is lacking, the noting mind becomes scattered. If you are trying to note on the object, it's just partial attention which you can really allow because of random thoughts that come into the mind. Thus, it is essential to have a balance between effort and energy. It is stated that the 5 faculties in achieving the Dhamma, sati or mindfulness, is always needed. Faith can be in excess, and when faith is in excess, one is likely to be betrayed by others. When wisdom is in excess, one tends to be cunning. When a yogi has one of these, he does not easily trust what others say or the other way around. One should know how to adjust and bring into balance faith and wisdom faculties. As I mentioned earlier, effort and concentration also need to be in balance. The Buddha praised his disciples when their effort and concentration were in balance, not when there was a single strength of effort or concentration. Because one can make progress only when the faculties are balanced, I have seen some yogis that do not mind sitting for long periods of time. They could sit for hours without any quality of noting, and later they doze off. Well, sitting session for them is sleeping session. Of course you will not do it like that. Change your head position once it bends down by noting vertebrae changes. Later, with practice, you will be able to test your mind when changing the head position. By aiming at the point of movement carefully, you will see how the air element appeared as a result of intention and will push the head up. As your concentration becomes stronger, you will see effortlessly how things change. Many things happen when you pay attention like this. You have groups of vertebrae here. When you bow and pay respect, the cervical vertebrae will move step by step. It is important to note these movements. When you're lying down and sleeping, note the slow movement of changes, labeling as lying down, lying down. The mind must be focused on every step of each movement. In the guided talk in meditation, there was discussion of how Elder Ananda attained Arahata Magga from moving from the standing to the lying posture. It was in the moment that his feet were raised from the ground and his head before it touched the pillow. He would not have attained Arahata Maggaphala if the noting was not precise. Hence, in Vipassana, the yogi must carry along and note precisely all postures. This is not a small detail. Take note of every little thing. Then you will make progress, keeping concentration and effort in balance. Do not sit or walk for long hours because you prefer to do so. With precise noting, you will come to know that sitting or walking meditation is the same kind of practice. Thus, you will not stick to one posture or the other, and your practice will progress. Actually, you are training to achieve a matured state of mind where you are able to note anything as it arises with concentration. In martial art training, a player has to practice steps and movement without an enemy so that he will be able to respond immediately when actually faced with the enemy. Likewise, we are training our mind to be skillful by noting all details of all movements. When a yogi is able to note the arising objects instantaneously, the Dhamma will develop in him by itself. However, the yogi may miss some notings during transition stages of insight knowledge as he is experiencing some pleasant feelings. He is not aware of the feeling that is supposed to be noted. For example, at the stage of Udaya Jnana, if the yogi misses noting 4 or 5 times, he is likely to fall off from there. In the Bhanga Jnana, missing a couple of notes can easily fall back on the level of insight. Thus, it is very important to always keep up with the noting. Take good care to note activities in detail. In the scriptures, activities of moving forward, moving backward, bending the hands, eating, chewing, wearing clothes, tidying up, taking a shower, and even going to the bathroom will be noted in precise detail. In summary, the yogi will note any bodily activities. Concentration momentum must be connected moment to moment, and you will pick up good habits of noting whatever arises. Do not think that anything. Accept whatever arises and note it. Note it without thinking. If the yogi can do this, a meditation teacher is not needed. The teacher is needed for those who are thinking. As long as you can note on any object that arises, you are on the right track. If one is thinking, he is on the wrong path. Hence, note in details. Sometimes your body may experience unpleasant feelings. Sometimes you may notice pleasant feeling. Do not attach or reject whatever it is that you observe. Note them as they are, as pleasant or unpleasant. Be watchful of your state of mind, and as you continue to note carefully, your mind will be fresh and clear. If you feel sleepy, note sleepy as you feel sleepy. If you're bored, note bored. In fact, when you are bored, you can try to be aware of the mental state of being bored by raising your energy, raising your effort. Once the mental energy is there, boredom will disappear and you will have a clear mind again. When you feel sleepy and cannot focus anymore on the main object, use multiple objects to make your mind more active. You may have to open your eyes and note on lighted objects as seeing. If this does not work, be watchful on any object that arises in your body, such as a touching point, a warm area, an itching area, or on hearing, or any sound object. In this way, you will be prevented from sloth and torpor gaining the upper hand. By applying all of these points in your practice, I would urge you to have diligent and respectful practice, and may you be able to reach your goal easily and effortlessly.